Most hitters lose their swing in the first inch of movement, and most coaches are the cause of that. Today, I'm going to show you how to make your move based on your body type. Whether you're an aerial or a terrestrial or a ground force-oriented hitter, today I'm going to show you how that first move is important and why, if you're given just one simple wrong command, that can throw your entire swing off. Hey, this is Coach Bill. If you want to build a repeatable, powerful, game-ready swing, then the one thing that is necessary is is to master your first move. And that's what this video is about today. We're going to take a look at how to assess, hey, what type of mover am I? Am I a ground force mover, or am I an upper body or an aerial mover? Why is this important? Well, if I get this wrong, the very first move, within the very first inch, I'll probably lose my swing. But if I get this right, everything else downstream becomes effortless. So today, how do we begin that? Let's get right to it. So when I start looking at creating an assessment, who am I, what am I? So let's start with the definition of what is the very first move. So the very first move is that time that you're taking in your stance just before the pitch is on the way and you move into your launch. So that time is right there, right as I start to make it. That move, that simple little move, that's going to decide as to whether or not my swing is going to be successful or not. Okay, so it's timing, it's direction, it's posture, and it's what your body uses to react to the pitch. And if we remember, going back to the right now, I have to be ready to make my move. I have to be ready to go just as that ball is coming off the pitcher's fingertips. I can't be starting that move afterwards. It's just a little bit before, almost immediately afterwards. And so I wouldn't call it a load. I wouldn't call it a coil. It's not a backup. It's not a hands first. It's not any of those things. What this is, it's your reaction system, and it's how the body wants to work to get you, your individual you, prepared to do this. So I think the first thing that we want to do is to learn am I an aerial or am I a terrestrial? Okay, so let me roll in some video here. And what we'll see here. So the first thing that you can do, okay, is just run in place. Now, it's very interesting here. Take your time with this. Don't rush through it, because a lot of times what will happen, a lot of young individuals, their idea of jogging and running are two different things. So if you can get to a place where you can see a youth run, then do that. If not, you can jog in place and we can get a good idea of it. So what we're looking for, aerials, they're going to be bouncy. They're going to be towards the ball of the foot. And then you're going to see ground-oriented guys, they're going to be a little bit more flat on the foot when it lands. Okay? If you were to watch them run, you would see it looks like the aerials are leaning forward, and it looks like the ground force guys are upright and are almost pulling themselves forward. So if you would watch me run, I'm very ground force oriented, okay? So that's the very first thing that we want to do, okay? It's just jog in place. I just take the iPad right here. I just flip it on. We take a look at it. This is going to matter because it's going to dictate to us how we're going to cue our hitters, okay? So then the second test that we give, all of this will only take 60 seconds. So then the second test that we're giving is we're giving the ice skater. So it's a lateral 1-foot hop, and we're looking again at how do they move. So movement, the reaction to it. So when we look at this lateral hop, you'll notice that the aerials, very springy, whereas the ground force guys, the terrestrial guys, I wouldn't call it heavy-footed, but you can see not as springy in the legs. They're trying to use the ground to create energy coming back out for their move. Okay, so very noticeable here. Okay, in addition, if you wanted to, you could just do a shuffle test. shuffle to the left, shuffle to the right, and we'll probably see the same thing, okay? So then the third area that I'll look at then is I'm just watching the hitter. I'm just going to watch the hitter just in their stance. And we're going to see ground force guys want to get deeper. Maybe they're a little bit wider, right? Maybe they pull the punch here a little bit stronger. Upper body guys, we're going to see a little more erect in the stance, okay? A little more erect, a little looser, a little freer, so to speak. So I just want to get a quick glimpse of that. 3-4 seconds, that's all that we're looking at, just to see where they're at. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask them to jump. Okay, simple enough. We just put the ball bat down. We're going to do 2 jumps. First jump is just a jump. I want to see how they load. You'll probably notice that ground force oriented players will really load deep, whereas upper bodies, not quite as much. They're just getting into their hinge a little bit and up they go. And then I'm going to ask them for a reaction time, because sometimes, again, with youth, it's a little bit different. So then we're going to just do a reaction where I'll hand clap, and what we're looking for is that same jump and to see how it's done, how it's created, and that's going to give us a real good idea as to whether or not aerial or ground force oriented guy. Okay, that test just in and of itself probably gets us about 90% of the time like we're dead on the money. Okay, so that's where we begin. Every hitter will have their own particular movement. So when we start looking at this on the grand scale, there are terrestrials and there are aerials. I don't think anyone is all terrestrial or all aerial. We're probably somewhere in between. But when you do those assessments that we had just done, if you get 2 of the 3 are leaning that way, that's probably what we're looking at when we start to look at their stance. So if they moved as aerials in 2 of those 3 movement tests, when you look at the stance, you'll probably notice that they're a little higher in their stance. Probably is going to tell you that, hey, they're an aerial. Now, we do have to be aware of, were they coached into being a terrestrial, a ground force mover? That looks really nice. Ground forces look nice. It's what baseball has come to expect. So we have to be very careful. And if we cue them incorrectly, giving an aerial a ground force cue will actually hurt them because they are so quick with their hips to begin with. Now what will happen is it delays the entire system, okay? Conversely, if we give a ground force guy incorrect, stay springy, be light, whatever, they're not pulling enough slack out, so they're going to be a little slower, a little less strength at the ball. So those are some items to keep in mind. So how are aerial movers and ground force movers, how are they different? And why does the first move have to be different? Well, within these 2 broad movements, within these 2 broad categories, an aerial mover typically is lighter on their feet. They've got a little more elasticity. They're a little more spring-based. So, and along those lines, think like Byron Buxton, think Derek Jeter, think Junior. They like space, they like rhythm, they like tempo, and their first move tends to be upward, or what I'll call light, upward or light, that creates their flow. So their stance needs a little bit of slack in it. So they'll do well with a little rhythm, a little movement, a little float, and so their first movement often looks like a small gathering, a subtle hover, right? A subtle hover with the lead foot, and then it's pressure that will move gradually into the backside as they're moving. Okay, so these are typically the guys that when we're getting real finite with them, we're thinking that they're drifting into their swing. So we have to be very careful. A lot of time to get them on time, we'll just do a slight scap retention, scap pull, just to pull that slack out so that it gets them in time with their hips, okay? Now, a ground force mover, they're strong, right? They're stable. They like to load through the ground. So think Mike Trout, think Juan Soto, Think Miguel Cabrera. So they like the pressure, they like anchors, they like to create leverage. So their first move is about sinking into the ground. So for them, pressure increases immediately. Their first move feels downward and anchored, and they need a stable base before they can express power. So they don't like to float, they want force. Here's the problem. Most coaches will give an aerial cue to a ground force mover or vice versa, and that will destroy the first move. So in this example that I'll use here, telling a ground force hitter to stay loose, all right? That's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a sense of good tennis, tension. So when a hitter stays loose, that is going to create a loss of anchor, a loss of direction, a loss of timing, early torso rotation, and it's a weaker first move, okay, and a weaker swing. So ground force movers, they need the ground, and if you take that from them, they're going to lose their hitting identity, okay? Now, the second one is, do you tell an aerial mover to get in your legs or sit in your back pocket or sink into the ground or whatever? Now they become stiff. They lose their rhythm. It slows their rhythm down. It locks up their hips. So there's no elastic load. And for them, it typically causes late swing decisions. So aerial hitters, they want to have movement and read through it. They want to feel light. They want buoyancy. You ground them and you slow them, and you're going to ruin their timing. Okay, so the correct move for both of these hitters. So regardless of how your archetype, regardless of your blueprint, all great hitters are going to share four things, right? They're going to share four things. First is a direction toward the pitch. Whether you float or whether you sink, you must move into your line, right? We're trying to create that line. Maintain posture, right? Good posture. Hey, at school, sit up at the desk. When you do that, you're actually working on becoming a good hitter. So no collapsing, no tilting. So posture will set the swing plane. Pressure shifts at the right time, not early, not late, where we're pulling back or causing that reverse C in the back. It's what we talk about in the very first video of the series here, which was right now and go, okay? So we talk about that. And then typically, less is more. Less is more. The first move is small, it's quiet, it's efficient. Typically, bigger moves create bigger timing problems just because of the addition of time, okay? So I like the idea of moving explosively, moving quick, whether you're a ground guy or whether you're an upper body guy, okay? So the first move, instead of cueing positions, just make sure that you're cueing the intention, all right? Cue the intention of that. So for aerial movers, use cues like float into it, ride the rhythm, keep your spring, let the ground come to you. These are very athletic and elastic terms, okay? So ask the hitter, hey, what are you feeling? If they have the ability to give you really good feedback, use their words as they're describing it. So we want to do that. For ground force movers, use cues like anchor and go, gather pressure early, load through the ground, feel the force under you, okay? Again, these will turn on their natural power generators, okay? They're going to get into their hips. They're going to get into their midsection. They're going to allow that middle to rotate through, okay? And so, right, so we've talked here a little bit, you know, when you cue that wrong first move, right? So the attractors break. If you go into here, there's a video. It's a rather long video, I believe, that I did on attractors, okay? Look for that one. It has a lot of Albert Pujols, who's a very beautiful hitter to me. The hitter is going to lose their kinetic chain. The time to contact will slow. There's a misinterpretation of their movement. They create compensations. Most of those are hand-oriented from what I've seen, and they'll stop trusting their swing. okay? And so that'll show up, especially on inside corners, which I think we have some more issues just with the lack of vision. The peripheral vision isn't trusted, so we have to learn that as well. So this is where confidence dies, is when we're giving the wrong cue, because it's going to destroy the science and the EV behind it. So it all happens because a generic cue that did not match the hitter's type. So the final takeaway here is the first move, it's not a one-size-fits-all mechanic. It's a combination of the hitter's movement identity, it's their stance structure, it's their pressure strategy, and it's their timing blueprint. So when you match the cue to the mover, you're unlocking better timing, more power, cleaner direction, higher consistency, a confident, game-ready swing, and you're starting to get the hitter to understand what it is exactly. It's not just a swing, but here I am trying to capture this baseball at my very best, okay? And then when they start to feel good about how they're moving, you're gonna start to see the ball start to explode off their bat. So, if you want more videos like this, if you want more videos like aerials versus ground-oriented guys, EV timing and building your hitter's first move, please make sure to to subscribe, like and subscribe here to this video, or just drop a comment below. Send me the first guide, it's the first move guide, and what I'll do is I have put together everything that we talked about here, so things to look for, how to make that assessment, conducting the assessment, just do that, download it, go grab it, and it's right there. So I'll send you all of that. So in the next video, we'll see you here very soon. Let's go to work. Okay, talk to you soon.